Houston MD Anderson Cancer Center, Pediatric Wing, 2 a.m. A father named Carlos, 36, sat in the hallway outside his 7-year-old son's room. His son Miguel had been in surgery for 9 hours, brain tumor removal. The doctors had said 50/50th chance of survival. Carlos had been praying for hours, his rosary beads worn smooth in his shaking hands. Subscribe to discover who the mysterious night custodian really is and why he has been waiting 20 years for this exact moment. A custodian, an elderly Hispanic man, maybe 75 years old, slowly pushed his cart down the hallway. He'd been watching Carlos all night. Finally, he sat down next to him. "Your son," Carlos nodded, unable to speak. The custodian pulled out his own rosary. "May I pray with you?" Carlos looked at him, tears streaming. "Please." They prayed together in Spanish for 20 minutes. When they finished, the custodian asked gently, "What's your son's name?" "Miguel Ramirez." The custodian went completely still. "What's his middle name?" "Jose. Miguel Jose Ramirez." "Why?" The custodian's hands shook violently. "Because 20 years ago I operated on a little boy named Miguel Jose Ramirez. He had a brain tumor. The surgery failed. He died on my table." Carlos felt ice in his veins. You were a surgeon." The custodian nodded. "The best pediatric neurosurgeon in Texas. Until I killed that child. Then I was nothing." He looked Carlos in the eyes. "Your son, is he your first child?" Carlos shook his head. "My second. I had an older son. He died 20 years ago. Brain tumor. Failed surgery." Followed to understand the impossible truth that connects these two men and their sons across 2 decades. The custodian whispered, "What was your first son's name?" "Miguel Jose Ramirez Sr. We named our second son after him, hoping we could have another chance." The custodian stood up, stumbling. Carlos caught him. "Are you okay?" "No, God, no. Your first son, I killed him. And now, 20 years later, I'm here when your second son, named after him, is fighting for his life." Carlos should have been angry, furious, but instead, he just felt overwhelming sadness. "You've been here all these years," the custodian explained through tears. "After Miguel died, I couldn't operate anymore. My hands shook. I saw his face every time I held a scalpel, so I quit, gave up my license, took this custodian job because I needed to be near the children I couldn't save. For 20 years I've worked night shifts, cleaning, watching, praying for the families, especially for yours, because I never found you after Miguel died. The hospital kept your information confidential. I looked for years." Carlos sat back down heavily. "Why did you want to find us to apologize? To tell you I've never forgiven myself? To say that your son's death destroyed me, but it also taught me something. That healing isn't just about perfect surgery. It's about being present when things fall apart." The surgery doors opened. The surgeon emerged, exhausted. Carlos jumped up. "How is he?" The surgeon smiled tiredly. "He made it. The tumor's out. He'll recover fully." Carlos collapsed in relief. The old custodian wept openly. The surgeon noticed him. "Dr. Mendoza, is that you?" The custodian nodded. The young surgeon continued. "Dr. Mendoza trained me. He was my mentor in medical school before he left surgery. He's the reason I became a pediatric neurosurgeon." He turned to Carlos. "The technique I use today, the one that saved your son, Dr. Mendoza invented it. He's published in every textbook. He's a legend." Carlos looked at the custodian Dr. Mendoza with new understanding. "You invented the technique that saved my son." Dr. Mendoza nodded weakly. "I developed it after Miguel died, trying to make sure no other child died the same way, but I couldn't use it myself. My hands, I couldn't trust them anymore." The young surgeon added, "Dr. Mendoza, you've saved thousands of children through your research, your teachings, your innovations. Just because you couldn't hold the scalpel doesn't mean you didn't heal." Carlos grabbed Dr. Mendoza's shaking hands. "You think you killed my first son, but you also saved my second son 20 years later. Through your research, through your refusal to let his death be meaningless, you gave me another Miguel. That's not failure. That's redemption." Dr. Mendoza collapsed into Carlos's arms, sobbing. To fathers, connected by tragedy 20 years apart, holding each other in a hospital hallway at 3 a.m. Miguel Jr. recovered fully. Carlos brought him to meet Dr. Mendoza weeks later. Miguel looked at the old man. "You knew my brother." Dr. Mendoza nodded, unable to speak. Miguel hugged him. "Thank you for remembering him. Daddy says everyone forgot except you." Dr. Mendoza broke down. "I never forgot. Not for 1 second." Carlos made Dr. Mendoza promise to stop punishing himself. "Miguel Sr. wouldn't want you suffering. He'd want you living. For him, for all the children your work saved." Dr. Mendoza struggled with that for months, but finally he resigned from custodial work. "For all the children your work saved." Dr. Mendoza struggled with that for months, but finally he resigned from custodial work, started teaching again at the medical school, training the next generation of pediatric neurosurgeons. He dedicated his lectures to Miguel Jose Ramirez Sr. "This child's death taught me that failure isn't fatal if we learn from it, if we transform it into better outcomes for others." He trained 50 doctors in his remaining years. Each of them saved hundreds of children. all using techniques born from the tragedy of one failed surgery 20 years ago. Dr. Mendoza died at 82 at his funeral. Carlos spoke. This man thought he was a killer, but he was a healer. He just healed differently than he planned, not through his hands, through his heart, through his refusal to let tragedy be the end of the story. 50 surgeons attended. Each brought a photo of a child they'd saved using Dr. Mendoza's techniques. Thousands of children, all alive because Dr. Mendoza refused to let Miguel's death be meaningless. Miguel Jr. is now 27, a medical student specializing in pediatric neurosurgery. I'm becoming what Dr. Mendoza was, he tells people, because too, Miguel's deserved better. And I'm going to spend my life making sure other children get better. He works under the last doctor Dr. Mendoza trained, and he carries a photo in his pocket. Two boys, both named Miguel Jose Ramirez, both fighting brain tumors, 20 years apart. One didn't make it, one did, but both mattered, both changed the world. Dr. Mendoza's headstone. He failed once, then spent 20 years making sure failure became thousands of successes. Carlos visits it monthly, brings flowers, updates Dr. Mendoza on Miguel's progress. Your boy's becoming a doctor. Both of your boys, mine and the one you never forgot, they're saving lives now, together, because that's what redemption looks like. Not erasing the past, but transforming it into a future where the past's pain prevents others' pain. Dr. Mendoza couldn't save Miguel Sr., but through his guilt, his research, his teaching, he saved thousands, including Miguel Jr. That's not failure. That's the longest, hardest, most beautiful form of healing, and it's still happening. Every time Miguel Jr. enters an operating room, every time he saves a child with a brain tumor, every time he whispers, "This one's for Dr. Mendoza, this one's for my brother," the work continues, the healing spreads. And to Miguel's one in heaven, one on earth smile, because their lives mattered, and through them thousands more lives were saved. That is legacy. Not avoiding failure, but refusing to let failure be the end, making it the beginning of something better. Dr. Mendoza learned that lesson and taught it to the world, one saved child at a time.